All right, welcome to take two of 15 Minutes of Flame here on the 15th of May. For whatever reason, I got froze out of the internet, which meant that my stream got interrupted. And luckily, it was only 12 minutes into the show, so I get to try this one more time. How was everybody? How was everybody's weekend? I spent most of my weekend, if you hadn't heard the first 12 minutes, getting baked like a piece of fried chicken underneath the hot Texan sun, doing some baseball with my kid. We did pretty well. The team went 2-2, and we have this kind of typical outing where we'll win a game and then lose a game, and win a game and lose a game, and the results are generally kind of uniform. Like the game we win, we play really well, and then the game we lose, we don't play really well. And we're, besieged by errors, and but we're getting better, and it's a good learning experience for the kids. And my kid was on a winning team for 2 years and won everything in sight, trophies every weekend, rings every weekend. So it was a big deal. Now he's not winning anything, and I'm watching him, and he's becoming a better teammate. He doesn't even play every inning, which I have some misgivings about, to be honest with you. But he doesn't play every inning, and when he's not playing, he's like being a good teammate. And I'm watching him, and I'm watching him evolve and grow and mature through an experience that isn't always, how should I say this, pleasant. So, these things happen, and they happen for a reason. A lot of times we try to shield our kids and get them out of situations that are potentially negative, and sometimes they just have to go through them, and we have to sit back, and and they may be cringeworthy at times, but that's life, and we can't control everything, even though we do our best to, and especially when it comes to our kids, and we have to just back off of that a little bit, maybe a lot. Anyway, he got to pitch yesterday, and he did pretty well, except the defense kind of abandoned him. 4 unearned runs. That was rough. That was kind of a rough deal. But again, it's all about a learning experience, and he pitched well. 2-2 for the weekend, and I did not do the Sunday night live stream because I was pretty baked, and I wouldn't have been a whole lot of use for anybody. So one of the things we'll talk about here in the next half hour is June 1st, which is supposedly a big day on the kind of globalist deep state front. And we're trying to untangle some significant things that happened over the weekend, one of which is the WannaCry software, which sort of popped out. If you're unaware of WannaCry, it was part of the biggest global hack in history over the last 72 hours. Was it 96 hours? So this is, I'm just going to read this. Remember, we're trying to improve and upgrade the quality of your life through these podcasts. So I'm going to read this to you. It says, WannaCry, everything you need to know about the global ransomware attack. If you've done your best to stay away offline for the past 2 days so you could actually enjoy your weekend, which is a really good thing to do, you undoubtedly now find yourself trying to catch up on all the news surrounding WannaCry ransomware. The unprecedented malware attack began sweeping the globe late last week, and security researchers estimated that nearly 57,000 computers in more than 150 countries were infected by the end of the day on Friday. That's a lot of computers. While the spread of this terrifying ransomware was slowed on Saturday, it was hardly stopped. As of Monday morning, more than 200,000 systems around the world are believed to have been infected. WannaCry is far and away the most severe malware attack so far in 2017. The spread of this troubling ransomware is far from over. In this post, we'll tell you what WannaCry is, what developments we've seen in the past 3 days, and how to protect yourself. So if you want to learn more, go to bgr.com, and they'll tell you what you need to know. Basically, what WannaCry does. Here, I'll read this paragraph. Okay. First and foremost, let's clarify exactly what WannaCry is. The malware is a scary type of Trojan virus called ransomware. ransomware. As the name suggests, the virus holds the infected computer hostage and demands that the victim pay a ransom in order to gain access to the files on his or her computer. Ransomware like WannaCry works by encrypting most of or even all the files on a user's computer. Then the software demands that a ransom be paid in order to have the files decrypted. Now here's where it gets really interesting. In the case of WannaCry specifically, the software demands that the victim pays a ransom of $300 in bitcoins at the time of infection. If the user doesn't pay ransom without 3 days or within 3 days, the amount doubles to $600. After 7 days without payment, WannaCry will delete all the encrypted files and all data will be lost. So, per Symantec, there's a list of file types that are targeted and encrypted by WannaCry. So you want to go to this website, bgr.com, and you'll see all the various file types, .docs, .doc, .dotx, what do we have here, .mp3, .mp4, .mpeg, so it's basically everything, really. There are very little file types. How and why WannaCry was created. You can thank the NSA for discovering the Eternal Blue exploit that later be used by the WannaCry Trojan, and then for keeping it under wraps to use for its own intelligence gathering purposes. The security hole was then made public last month when a group of hackers called Shadow Brokers released the details of the exploit to the public. So they found an NSA hack, and then they released it to the public. You know, it's the equivalent of like a virus that's created by our friends down in Atlanta, the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. WannaCry was first discovered on Friday, May 12th. It has spread to an estimated 57,000 computers, more than 150 countries around the world. At the end of the day, European countries hit the hardest, and business ground to a halt at several large companies and organizations, including banks, hospitals, and government agencies. On Saturday, a 22-year-old security researcher named Marcus Hutchins inadvertently slowed the spread of the WannaCry virus when he registered a domain name within the virus code in an attempt to track the spread of WannaCry, unintentionally stopping its progress. In the process, you can read Hutchins' story in his blog post, How to Actually Stop a Global Cyber Attacks. Unfortunately, the spread of WannaCry wasn't actually stopped, but instead slowed. So here we go. How can I protect myself from WannaCry? Regardless of which operating system you run, you should install any and all available security updates immediately. Specifically, Windows users with machines that run Windows XP, Windows 8, Windows Server 2003 should immediately install this security update, and there's a link there right on the site, released on Friday by Microsoft. What can I do if my computer is infected? Sadly, there's no fix for WannaCry available at this time. How about that? Antivirus companies and cybersecurity experts are hard at work for ways to decrypt files on infected computers, but no means of third-party decryption are available right now. Hopefully, affected users have backups of their data available, because the only other option right now is to follow instructions offered in the software and pay the ransom. Or you can get a Mac. So the big deal here is that they are tracking the payments to Bitcoin. Now, this is what happens in Bitcoin, is that because of the blockchain, because of how secure it is, you can't track who gets the money. So once it goes into Bitcoin, it goes into essentially an anonymous bank account. And somebody on the other side of the blockchain has, access to that account. But that's untraceable. And this is not the first time that things have been linked to Bitcoin, who's now turning up as a pretty large player on the dark net in terms of financial transactions, because they're untraceable. In which case, Bitcoin will kind of move to the forefront in terms of, the government, even though I'm sure the government probably takes advantage of Bitcoin as well, wanting to regulate and get into Bitcoin because of things like this. So when Bitcoin perhaps has outlived its usefulness for the various parties involved, they may do whatever they can within their power to either disassemble, limit, whatever they can. Now, I'm not sure that they can. I'm not an expert in Bitcoin. It might be such a perfect blockchain that it's unassailable. It would be the fortress of solitude. But perhaps there is some things that they can do for Bitcoin, in which case we're looking at the exposure of cryptocurrencies from a privacy perspective. Perhaps this is what it's all about. I'm not saying it is, but perhaps there is. If you want to really get into what's going on in the world and untangle things in your own way, because I know lots of you are just avid researchers and you're hungry for information, truth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are two places you can go, and you have to be, I would say, discerning, to say the least. One is Reddit, the other is 4chan. And there's a lot of discussion that goes on in Reddit and 4chan that is very cutting edge in a lot of ways. And I just recently discovered through a YouTuber that there's a guy who's an FBI agent, or he's a former FBI. He's inside, and he's been leaking a fair amount of information over on 4chan. People ask him questions, or him or her questions, and he does his best to answer them. And it's a very interesting sort of dialogue. I don't have any links right now, but some of the things that he's talking about is that Trump is compromised through Ivanka. This is where they get Trump. Now, I've heard that there's some other material floating around there. That there's here. I'm going to share some dark stuff. This came through Robert David Steele, whom I don't really trust. Everybody loves him, and maybe he's a great guy, but there's something about Robert David Steele. I'm still trying to, up my trust factor with him. Anyway, he says that they have compromised Trump because apparently there's a video of Trump raping and killing a young woman by the name of Mary. Okay, so this is one thing that Steele's been talking about. But over on 4chan, this FBI informant operative says that what's really going on is that Trump is compromised through Ivanka, and that he's basically doing what he's told because of the threat to Ivanka. Now, he also says that Ivanka and Jared are avowed globalists, which we know. We don't need an FBI informant to tell us that. He also says that Jared Kushner is an occultist and that he poses the greatest threat to the presidency and even to the country. I've been saying this for a while, that Jared Kushner is running the country, and he's dangerous. We did not vote, or people didn't vote for Jared Kushner or Ivanka, but it's really Jared Kushner. And it's going to be interesting to see how people kind of react to this. We know where his building is. It's 666 Fifth Avenue. It'd be interesting to see people out there occupy 666. I mean, wouldn't that sort of turn the heat up a little bit? This guy he's like vapor. There are 2 interviews with him on the internet, and they're all about real estate, and you get nothing. He's vaporous. Anyway, if you really want to dig into what's happening, try to go over to 4chan and sort through a lot of that stuff. A lot of it is disinformation too, a lot of trolls, but you can find some interesting info that pops up. Another thing that this FBI informant talks about is Antarctica, and he says that it is basically the headquarters for the New World Order. It's Antarctica. And he also says that there are massive transhuman experiments going on in Antarctica. So they're working on new species down there. So I wanted to pass that along. The other thing that came up is sort of the disappearance of Trey Gowdy. And I don't follow Trey Gowdy, but apparently he has not been seen in quite a while. And there's some concern that he may be under some form of lockdown I don't know. I don't follow Trey Gowdy. I just see him when he pops up and grills people with laser beams. But I haven't seen him around. And, trying to figure out who's going to be the replacement for Comey at the FBI. And certainly Trey Gowdy would be an interesting choice and an interesting option. So we've given you today, at the very least, some understanding about the WannaCry software. It's important if you have a Windows system that you get it under wraps and under control and get that patch. Again, you can go to bgr.com and find out more about WannaCry and actually go to the link that they have right there on the site that has the patch. So what is it about this June 1st date that has people inside of the inner circle, or even the fringe of the inner circle? Why does it have them talking about this day, June 1st? It's a Tuesday, and Mars is in Gemini at 27 degrees. So that's just outside of Trump's sun, which is at 22 degrees. And so we know that where's our Mars? We know that on the, let's see, so Trump's sun is at 22. So that's going to be, let's see, that's the 13th of June. That's the 13th of June. That's his birthday. Right. But Mars is going to be at 22 on the 24th. That's when it conjuncts Trump's sun. And if we zoom out a little bit, on the 26th, we'll have a Gemini new moon. And on the 27th, it will be the new moon on Trump's sun with Mars 2 degrees off of Trump's sun. So the 26th and 27th are going to be key days in the life of Donald Trump and maybe even the world itself, because as we know, Mars is a planet of action, and when it is in the sign of Gemini, it is certainly a bit more agitated than any other sign because of the nature of Gemini, which is mercurial. So this really bears some witnessing here. Now, Trump fired Comey when Mars was just approaching his Uranus at 17 degrees. So that was, Mars was on Uranus at 17 degrees on Wednesday of last week. Right, so hold on a second. Actually, we got Mars at, it's going to be on his Uranus, I'm sorry, 2 days, the 17th. So it's been approaching, it's been in conjunction with his Uranus, which was last, so it's a 7-degree orb. So I think he fired Comey, was on a Monday, so Mars was around, 12 degrees, so that's within a 6-degree orb of his Uranus. Okay, so that makes sense. And then but the big day here, really, to be honest with you, if we're talking about exactitude, is Wednesday. So 2 days from now, circle that on your calendar. There could be more disruption coming from Trump Palace, also known as the White House. Now, apparently, the big thing that's going on and what's driving the wars, or the potential for war at this point, are money deals that were made through the Clinton Foundation and a number of hedge funds, Goldman Sachs. So there's big money on the table, oil futures. It's really too complex to get into over the course of the next 5 or 6 minutes, which is about how much longer I'll be broadcasting. But in addition to regime change for the global elite and the the Rothschild banking system and all that stuff, there's also money to be recouped. Now, one of the things that this guy over on 4chan is talking about, this FBI person, was that he really thinks that the shit's going to hit the fan. And that there's probably going to be some form of civil unrest in the United States. Now, that's not like a headline that's going to shock people because, we've been sort of circling the carcass of democracy now for really the last couple of years, but much more intensely over the last 6 to 9 months. And when he was asked, where a safe place is, basically he said what I've been sort of touting, which is, again, not rocket science. You got to get away from the urban centers. Those are going to be hellholes. And he said that the elite have places that are outside of the country, and they are literally steel castles, subterranean steel castles. So they'll be able to wait out just about anything and pop back in after everything's been devastated or close to it, and then try to regain some form of social order. If that's the case. Now, nothing is set in stone. But I think, again, we need to be a bit prepared on our end and try to up our game. And the one thing he did say that I think really aligns with this program and a number of other programs, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, podcasters, bloggers. We are an unaffiliated network of truth and exposure that is actually doing something. It's doing something. And believe it or not, we're keeping these people on their toes. Now, they've got endgame after endgame after endgame after endgame after endgame. Because of game theory and all that other stuff, they're modeling the super sophisticated programs or program the beast that they use to model reality. But we are, in our own way, hacking that experience. So don't give up the ship. All is not lost, and all of your efforts to share information with people who are ready for it, or to build an alternative system within your own heart and mind so it can manifest outward. These are all not only noble affairs, but they're essential and critical for destabilizing whatever programs are being run. We are our own version of the reality hacking virus. We're our own version of it. And don't ever forget that. That's a really important piece to all of this. All right, so thank you for listening in this morning. We talked a little bit about the WannaCry software and some of the revelations I was able to pick up over through 4chan. And we'll see you again here tomorrow, 24 hours from now, and bust out a little bit more information, knowledge, whatever it is we can get our hands on. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step on what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix with your 15 Minutes of Flame. Have a great day.